As a parent, certainly as a first-time parent coming into surgery, you don't even really know what your options are in terms of what you can ask for. You don't even necessarily know that you can escort your child in some cases into the surgical suite or to anesthesia or whatever. And so I think some of us have just learned the hard way. And what might have been helpful is to know sort of what's the, to have someone ask us, do you want us to come and get you and bring you down before your son comes to, and you can be there, but you don't know to ask about those until you've been through it and learned the hard way.
One of the interesting things that I've realized over the years has been in terms of time. There seems to be a different, when you ask the surgeon's perspective of time, it's quite different from my perspective of time as a parent. They'll often ask, if you ask how long will the surgery be, the surgeon will often respond in the amount of time it will take him or her to conduct the procedure, whereas I'm thinking of it from the moment that I kiss her goodbye to the moment someone comes out and tells me that she's in recovery. So I used to panic a little bit when a surgeon would tell me it would be 3 or 4 hours and we'd be hitting the 4 or 5 hour mark, and we hadn't, seen the surgeon yet. Whereas now I think I'm better prepared to either go ahead and add an hour or an hour and a half to whatever estimate they give me, or ask for clarity up front to say, all right, how long total? Will this include the prep time in advance?
I think that's a great point about the surgery itself. I think it's probably equally true about the recovery time. There's sort of clinical outcomes that may be achieved in, X weeks, but from a parent's standpoint, you're kind of thinking, well, when is my child sort of fully back and fully able to do the things that he or she is expected to be able to do?
The surgeons, in my experience, do a really good job of explaining to patients and families about the actual operative procedure and what needs to be done to take care of the surgical problem. But I think that they don't feel as comfortable answering what life's going to be like after surgery. And part of it's time, constraints. But that's something that we're so familiar with, and it comes natural to us to talk about it. And so I think that we provide the bulk of that information. And I think pain management is probably one of the biggest concerns. Is the kids always say, "Is it going to hurt?" And if we didn't go through that surgery, we don't know exactly what it's going to feel like. But we try to reassure them and tell them that we'll make you as comfortable as possible, but we might not be able to take away all your pain. But that we have medication that can help you, so you can do things you need to do and want to do. And so I think that we try to provide reassurance about that.
So often what we do get is, here's the typical recovery time. And our experience has been that often is much, much longer. There was one time that my daughter had surgery, and I think the expected recovery was about a week in the hospital, another week at home, and maybe a week of half days at school. And a series of complications occurred that kept her out of school for 3 months, and we weren't prepared for that. And it doesn't mean that the possibility wasn't communicated to us, but it's still a hard thing to kind of expect. At the same time, you don't want the surgeons to scare everyone with unusual complications. So I would imagine it's a very hard thing. How do you give people the information that they need to truly be informed about the risks of a particular procedure without scaring them unnecessarily?